Coaching in Session,
your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
Welcome, Sandy Cohan, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Today we're going to be talking about your work, Mindset Development Coach. And as I say, with mindset, near and dear to my heart, because it is going to be that missing formula for many people if they are struggling in a hard part of their life or point in their life, or maybe when they're trying to get to the next level. There's something that's stopping them. There's something that's an anchor in their life. And when you can look at your mindset, give some attention in some areas and give yourself a little bit more direction in some areas where maybe you can take a little bit more risk or challenge yourself or push yourself more, then that's where the results can truly shine. It's almost like the mindset of going to the gym and only lifting 5-pound weights. Yes, you're going to the gym. Yes, you're lifting 5-pound weights. But where's the challenge? Where's the struggle? So we have to have that in order to level up. And some people are afraid to level up. And today we're going to be talking about all about mindset, all about leveling up, and about what you do and how you help people. If you could, in your own words, tell the world who you are, what you do, and of course, how you help.
Yeah, so Sandy Cohan, mindset development coach, also an author, a speaker, and I really help people maximize their performance through mindset development. And I say that word mindset all the time. I don't say on the mental performance side, because I think sometimes like the suggestion or the insinuation is that you're broken. And the work that I do, it's not with broken people. I was a hockey player. When my career was over, I spent about 12 years as a professional skills coach. So surrounded by best of the best on the planet. And for the last 8 years, I've been exclusively in the mindset space because I always wondered, what was the separator, right? What everybody out here, top performers, best in the world, but why were some making it and some weren't? And when I say it, I'm just talking about maximizing your potential. And it wasn't necessarily on ice skills or sport specific skills. That certainly matters, but it was so many of the other pieces. So when I say mindset, I'm talking about belief, attitude, grit, focus, emotional control, discipline, self-awareness. So that's kind of the world that I live in.
Yeah, when we start to look at all of these different areas, I'm sure people are going to be looking at somewhere like, oh, I don't have strong belief. I don't have a good attitude. Grit, I don't even know what it is. Let me Google it really quick. So we got a lot of problems right now where people are not even understanding what is their maximum, what is their potential. And would you say that people don't know their maximum because the examples around them are not showing themselves to be the best they can be?
I think that's a big part of it. I think the two big ones are focus and grit, and belief is pretty close behind. But what I realized maybe 5 years ago, somebody said this to me that, you've probably heard it a million times, seen a million speakers, and they're talking about you just got to grind, you got to believe, and you got to have the right attitude. All of that is totally relevant. That's the world that I live in. I think the challenge for many is almost like the work before the work. Everyone who's sitting there hearing that message, they're saying, I get it. I understand that, but you don't know my story, right? Like you don't know what I've been through. So we spend a lot of time kind of in that residue, getting the work before the work, so then the work can actually happen. So yeah, I think a lot of people like to be comfortable. It's not comfortable to be uncomfortable. So kind of in those growth zones, I think people naturally don't jump to those places. But I've found that most of the time we're not starting at the right place. The concept of this mindset development for athletes or for high performers, CEOs, executives, or just anybody, it works. But I do think it's important that you got to get to the starting line. And a lot of time that's the work before the work.
Well, when we start to look at mindset development, why mindset development? Why are we not taught this in schools? Why are we not taught this at an early age? It's almost like we wait until we're adults and we get hit with all the struggles and challenges and obstacles of the world. And then we are faced with this challenge of, okay, do I show up or do I not show up? And some barely show up. Some just survive and they push their way through life.
Yep.
There has to be a new type of focus where we're looking at this development of, as we are, as mandatory, or almost as we learn it at a young age. It's like learning your ABCs or learning your alphabets. It's like you do it versus learning how to be the best we can be. It's like, let's take a back burner with that. Like, that's nonsense.
I'm not gonna ask you how old you are.
I'll
say it for me. It was just a different time, right? I'm 50. It was a different time. I played high level sports. I'm not saying it was a better time. It was a lot of, just kind of suck it up and deal with it. I'm not saying that was good, but I agree with you that this work is foundational. I think of mindset. Pick your field. It's the foundation of the building. So I don't care what you're trying to stack on top of it, the balcony on the third floor or whatever. All of that is irrelevant if the foundation of the building is not strong. And I see it in younger athletes. I see it in executives, any of the people that I interact with. I agree with you. I think there needs to be more of an education process about, I ultimately say I'm in the business of helping to build like great human beings, like whatever happens on the athletic side, whatever. Eventually everybody retires and moves on. But these are life skills. I mean, you said it right, how you're dealing with relationships or your job or whatever it is that you're doing. Your belief in yourself matters. Your ability to focus, that matters. And a lot of people don't know how to tap into those things. And that's kind of when I think the train goes off the tracks. It's mindset, and mindset builds perspective, right? Your perspective builds belief. Belief fuels confidence. Confidence enhances performance. But that chain, it has to start at the beginning. It's not at the bottom. It's at the beginning.
I'm sure people are thinking now, like, what is my beginning? Because they can look at people who have had a head start. And I think of privilege, and I've been talking about privilege for the past week or two on the podcast, because I think it's important for people to realize that just because someone might be more privileged, it doesn't mean that you are out of the race yet. I saw a video, you probably know it. There was a sports day for, I guess, high schoolers or maybe even college men, and they would put everyone on a line. And they just asked them, take a step forward if you have both parents in the household, if you have your college education paid for, if you don't have to worry about food, right? It was just those little things, right? It wasn't like if you are a good person, if if you pray at night, it wasn't those things. It was just in their life, things that maybe they have no control over. And at the end, he says, I want you to look back, the people in the front and the people in the back, I want you to, look forward. Just because these guys over here are ahead of you, it doesn't mean you can't win. And he even tells the guys in the front, those guys in the back will probably smoke all of you, even with this advance that you have. So it's about how much do you want to push, regardless of what you see in front of you.
And how much do you want to push? And even, what does success look like? I think a lot of people, if you don't have the destination, right? I mean, if we can't even define what success means, which is different for everybody, that's certainly a challenge. I don't know how you can track progress towards it. I don't know how you can celebrate wins. I don't know how you can adjust and analyze. So having the direction is really, really important. But, it's human nature to kind of look left and right and compare yourself out. And a lot of times we take identity from comparing to the other person, or what does that person have, or they have it easier, or I'm not as good as that person. The big irony is that there's so much focus on outcomes. Outcomes matter. Results matter. But the best way to get there is by focusing on the actions and behaviors that when and if you do them, they lead to those outcomes. Like, it is controllable. And I've found that a lot of people don't maybe have a full understanding of all of those things that they are in control of, those things that they can impact. And then the third category is just things that you have to let go. I mean, everything has to fall into one of those buckets. So being purposeful is a big one, but I agree with you. I think most people don't know their own limitations, but not in a negative way. I can't do anything more than that. Rather, I can do so much more than I ever even thought. There's two ways to look at the limitation concept, Yeah,
I want to start to look at comfort, because I think it ties in really well with our conversation. In the terms of people, they have a choice to stay comfortable or people have the option to push themselves past their comfort zone. Of course, you can choose how far you push yourself. You can go all the way to the extreme, or you can just go like a tiptoe out of the water or something like that. So maybe you are not really a strong swimmer, but you're going to jump into the deep end, but you're going to do it in the kiddie pool. So you can stand up still. So you're saying this is the deep end, but it's of the kiddie pool versus you're jumping in the deep end of the Olympic pool where it's 15 feet deep. All right. So you don't have to do or die there. So you can trick your mind to say, hey, I'm putting myself to be, a little bit more adventurous. But then in the whole scheme of things, you can't truly trick your mind and saying, okay, I'm doing all these wonderful things and I'm pushing myself. The mind knows if you're truly pushing it, right? This is very similar on the treadmill, right? You're on the treadmill, you're pushing yourself. All of a sudden, that mechanism in your brain said, hey, stop, buddy. You're tired, right? You're going to have a heart attack. Like all these fire alarms start going off in your mind and in your body. And my knee, my back, right? Now, there's a difference between like excruciating pain and sharp pains that we should stop for. And then there's that voice in our mind that's just telling us to remain comfortable. How can someone discern the voices in their mind or in their life that are saying, hey, let's stay where we are because it's nice and comfortable versus let's try to push ourselves to see what we can do?
I love that question. I think that everybody has that desire to not want to be uncomfortable, right? But growth zones, like that's where the magic happens. Like the comfort zones are where dreams go to die, right? So I think for a lot of people, it's how big is the dream and how comfortable are they in seeing the path through the trees versus the trees. And that sounds so basic, but you can just tell people who are wired like that, like they're not reason why people, they're not problem reporters, they're problem solvers, right? So it's like there has to be some sort of hunger analysis. Am I hungrier to get there or to not stay here? Like those are two different things. So I think goal setting is a big one. I think understanding kind of the grit element, which I would say is the willingness to do hard things, passion plus perseverance for a long-term goal. So my favorite books, The Power of Grit by Angela Duckworth. And it's understanding that everything really is about today, right? Like the goal is not to win by tomorrow. We're just trying to stack todays, trying to stack wins. And eventually, when you add up all those todays, that's the achievement. So starting is a big one, but also understanding the grind is okay. The win, you mentioned the gym earlier. Like if you're going to the gym today and thinking you're going to have the physique you want tomorrow, like that's not how it works. But when you add up all the todays, so you do need that momentum. Momentum is a big one, but discipline, I think, is more important. Habits and discipline. That's typically high achievers are dialed in with discipline, standards, habits. They live by a way, principles, which I don't know if a lot of people have them.
I think more people today have excuses than habits, discipline. It's easy to say why you don't do something. Oh, I don't have any time. Oh, the kids are here. Oh, like work is so challenging right now. I have so many projects. My boss is on my butt. So yes, I get it, right? You have obligations in your real world, in your real life. You might be a family man or woman. You have an obligation for your kids if you have children to make sure that they're clothed and they're fed and that they're safe and secure. All of these things are things that you want to do, right? And then you just add in the part where you want to be better. It's like, wait 1 second. That part, even though that's the best part of you, it takes a back burner most of the time. And like, I think it's amazing where it's like, if you were a better person, like if you said that third part where I'm going to work on my personal development, I'm going to work on myself, you know what areas will also enhance your work life and your family life?
Absolutely. Look, fear is a big thing. Fear is real. I think, though, that, it's your perspective of fear. Like, does fear mean stop or does fear mean go? And is it really discomfort or is it a feeling because something is new and different? We just kind of tend to say nerves are bad. I ask young kids all the time, like, are you nervous before games? And they think it's a gotcha question. They want to say no. Like, nerves are normal, but is it nerves? Like, we have a thing in our brain that we kind of take that to a place where that must mean negative or weakness. What if it's just an emotion for something that hasn't happened yet? I don't know if it's good or bad, but it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I think a lot of this culturally, the younger, I think the individual that is exposed to this sort of thinking, the better. And the question I probably get asked all the time, because I use this word belief a lot, but people use the word confidence a lot, right? So like, what's the difference? What's the relationship? And I had someone explain this to me. They mentioned this to me. I'll never forget it. I was in high school, our coach in high school. And the way he phrased it was, if you look outside and see a tree, what you see above ground, that's confidence. What you don't see below ground, that's belief. So in that example of the tree, like no roots, no tree, no belief, no confidence. So many people I think are trying to feel confident. I get it. The easiest way to feel confident is just tap into belief. And it's like, it's almost instantaneous. And I don't know if enough of us play that what if game to the positive. What if it all works out? What if it's better than I ever thought? We tend to go to the negatives, right? Like, what if it doesn't work out? What if I look silly? What if I fail? I don't know which is true, but if your brain can only have so many thoughts, why not play the positive what if game, you know? And I think that's a learned skill.
Well, how about the idea of preparation? I think this is going to be the part where
Huge.
now we're like helping people saying, okay, how can we prepare to develop our mindset? How can we prepare to show up? How can we, prepare or be more confident to have that mindset that's going to give us or get it to the next level? And I think of when I was in school. I wasn't a good student. And early on, I would go to school to daydream. And if I had to do a test, I felt nervous before the test. It's like, oh man, I got a test coming. My parents are going to find out I'm going to get a bad grade. And what they did back then, it wasn't online where everything's all online now, where parents can just go online. It was, you had to bring the test home and you had to get it signed. Right. And I was like, man, I have to get my test signed and I got a 50. I'm like, whoa, this is not going to be good. So I would wait till the last minute, like into the morning where they like didn't really have a choice, like, or to like yell at me. Of course, just later.
Yeah, I get it.
Later on, I got it, right? But it was me feeling nervous, not only before the test, when I had to get it signed, and then I started to apply myself a bit more, right? So I started to study before tests. Like, whoa, study, like, what is this thing? It's a new concept. So I started to study. And then before I was going into the test, I felt confident. As soon as I got home, I say, Mom, look at my test. I need it signed, right? Confident, right? But it was one of those things where it seems easy to understand, but the whole aspect of preparing for that confidence or to feel confidence more than nervous, how would people get there?
So I ask people all the time this question about the concept of focus. And my personal belief is, and that's really kind of my specialty. I spend so much time in the focus space. That's where everything starts, is in that focus space. And I think if you asked most people, their definition of focus is blocking things out. That's not the best way to be focused. Focus is locking in, not blocking out. And so many people have, the don't think abouts. And I get it, right? Like, okay, don't think about making a mistake, or don't think about getting fired, or don't this. Well, the way the brain works, it's almost like, if I said to you, Simon Sinek says this, if he says, don't think about an elephant, everybody thinks about an elephant. Right? If I wanted you to think about a tiger, I would say, think about a tiger. That is how your brain works. So when we spend a lot of time in those don't think abouts, what we're actually doing is picking ourselves up, putting ourselves back into that place, and then trying to like scratch out of it. Where focus is like really narrow. It doesn't have to be 15 things, but locking in on one and not worrying about the blocking out. It's locking in. And I think for a lot of people, they confuse awareness with focus. I would say awareness is like looking out of a window. Like, hey, there's my neighbor, there's a tree, there's a bird. Like that's awareness. That's not focus. Focus is looking into a mirror. So everything, I believe, starts with focus. What are the intentions? specifics get specifics, right? So what's the outcome that we want? What are we trying to achieve? And locking in, you can slowly add more to it. But high performers share that ability that they can lock in, and they're not spending a lot of time trying to block out because the noise is still there. The goal is not to quiet the noise that you can't control. The goal is to lock in on what you can and then just be relentless on it, being all in on specifics. And I've found that from a focus standpoint, that is number one: athlete, business person, doctor, lawyer, whoever it is. The ability to focus is where everything starts.
Sometimes people will label someone talented. They will say, oh, you're so talented. You're so amazing. This was meant for you. You have the drive, the passion, everything for it. Like, you're just a natural at it. Would you say that when someone says someone is talented, they're looking at a person who's focused, someone who is locked in?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Talent matters. I think that talent moves needles. I think that mindset moves mountains. So I think there's a difference between, just natural skill. I think some things come easier to some people, but you have to realize that in order to execute whatever that thing might be, a golf swing, reading comprehension, whatever the talent is, there is a focus component that you're able to lock in on the things that you can control. So while I think it looks effortless on the outside, yeah, I think a lot of times those people that can execute in a talented way, they are sitting on a foundation of focus, and they're able to lock in, keep things control their controllables. And because of that, their body can follow.
Yeah. I think of when I was in certain areas of my life when I was like, okay, I have to level up. I have to do something. Of course, I had to be stubborn, which I am stubborn. I do it by myself most of the time. But if I had a coach, if I had someone to really push me, it was like, all right, like I would have got there years, like 2-3 years, not just like a month. It would have been years of my life. Like, hey, you are already this far ahead. And it wasn't until later I realized the power of it. And I got a business coach and I got everyone. It was like in my corner tried to help me. I was like, man, like this is like the secret formula in my mind. Like, why are more people not doing this?
I agree with that so much. The team around you is so relevant. And everybody says this, but like, show me your 5 friends and I'll tell you your future. That does matter. The people that you choose to surround yourself with, the energy, the mindset, the dreaming aspect, it's, you want to be around a whole bunch of energy creators or a whole bunch of like energy suckers, so the team matters. Asking for help matters. Learning new skills matter. And look, if you're anything like me, asking for help, it was not an easy thing. But what I've learned as I've gotten older, it's definitely not a sign of weakness. It's almost lunacy to not take the help, to not reach out to people that can help you navigate the storm. Life is hard. Everybody has challenges. Everybody always has drama, in their life. I think when you don't peel it back though, we tend to see like the tip of the iceberg, and in a culture where there's so many highlights on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, we see the wins, but we don't see the work behind the wins. You don't see the grind, and the grind matters. Falling down is not avoiding your child falling down. I don't think it should be the ultimate goal. We obviously want our kids to be safe, but teaching them how to get back up, I think that's more important. So yeah, I think getting people around you, I did the same thing that you did. I do this every day. I have a coach, I have mentors, and my life exponentially got better when I realized that, there's help out there, there's direction, people have done it before. And if anybody can just kind of help you get 1% better every day, after 30 days, you're 30% better.
I think of my son, he's 3 right now, and he is super passionate about everything he does. And sometimes the passion is, correlates to tantrums. And it's like, fine, I understand you're 3. And one day he was coming from the store, from school, and he was coming out and he tripped on his Crocs. And he was like, Dad, I fell. I'm like, get back up. I kept on walking. I was like, either you're coming or you're not coming, right?
That's
then
right.
we got to the point where he got kind of far. I was like, I just got there. I was like, get back up. And you got up, and then he fell on purpose again. Get back up. You're making your life real hard right now. And then eventually he just cried his way to the car. Right. But he made it. I'm not going to pick him up and say, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to take care of everything for you. Like, this is your fight, right? Get back up. And then sometimes I talk to my wife, I go, for him, he just needs to focus more. So when we say, all right, Nathaniel, focus, it's my son's name. He goes, okay, focus. But he says it like the F word, like he's swearing it. So, because, he has like that, young tone.
Yeah,
and
I know.
And then it's so funny because she's looking at me saying he's swearing. I go, but in his mind, he's saying focus. So as long as he's thinking, focus or F this, he's still on the right track. And I think of when I was, kind of going back to what I said earlier was, when I was looking at coaches and looking at my personal development, one of the things I did was I got a lot of books, hundreds of books. It wasn't just like one or two books. It was me. I in order for me to prepare for me to get to where I wanted to, I needed to get the information. One of the things you have is you have books. You have authored books, and you will author more books. These tools are going to be quintessential to someone's development. Of course, I can go down the list. I have a list. People can email me, hey, Michael, send me a list, or you could email me coaching@gmail.com. Hey, Michael, I want that list of books. I have books for men. I have books for women. I have books for everyone. All right. And we can get as specific as you want. It's just a list. And people will ask me all the time, hey, what's a book you recommend or something along those lines? And I say, well, what do you want to do? Because a book that might change my life in a certain area might just start to push the pendulum for you. So you have to you have to figure out, okay, how many books do I need? And oftentimes it's going to be multiple books, multiple authors, multiple learning edges or directions to say, you know what, let me get this bit of information. Let me get this bit of information. Eventually, you have amassed so many different authors and so many different bits of knowledge. You're going to start to say, wait, if everyone is thinking this way, why can't I?
Yeah, I agree with you. I was not a terrific student either when I was younger, so I can relate allegedly to some of your stories about having signed tests. So the first book that I wrote was 99 Rules Every Athlete Needs to Know. I come from the athlete world, and it was, I'm not saying this just because I wrote it, but it's the kind of book that I would have wanted to have read when I was younger. You can open up to any page. You can pull some nuggets out of there. It's quick, a lot of like motivating language, so it's a rule, maybe like 10 or 11 kind of short lines about it, and then like a mic drop line that you can take with you. And I started getting messages from people, suburban moms that maybe were golfers. Like it really started resonating. It wasn't just like high performing athletes. And I had one of my friends say, God, it would be great if something like this existed for parents. Like we're the parent of an athlete, we're trying to do well, but we could use some help too, like what do you say on the car ride to the event? What do you say on the way home? What are all kind of the standards? So the second book I wrote is 99 Rules Every Sports Parent Needs to Know. And that book came out maybe 2 months after the first one. It outsold the first one. Both have been out for, maybe 8 or 9 months. Love it. I've written a couple others that are kind of in that format. But yeah, it's the culmination of doing a lot of things wrong over the course of my life. I have ups and downs just like everybody else. Everybody has their story. But I think I really kind of hit a different level when, just like you said, I started really reading a lot of other books, anything and everything I could get my hands on, not just to see other people's wins, to see their struggles. I could relate to it. It was different perspectives. So I agree with you. I love getting that question when people, the clients I have, say, hey, what books do you think I should read? I answer it very similar to how you did. But so I love that aspect of what I do. I love the speaking part. I really, as I've gotten older, like being able to positively impact people, take a room of people, and just if they leave with 2 or 3 things that help the quality of their life get better, maybe it's because of something I did wrong and I communicate my story or whatever it is. The more I put myself in those positions, I think, to hear other perspectives, reading more books, that was one of the things that kind of helped me start writing books. And I love it. I'll have 4 of them out in a year, which has been a crazy year. I never thought I'd be able to say that I've written books, which is just a joke, but it really means a lot to me. So, I love it. Maybe one of the books on your list will be one of the books I've read. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely.
Or
I'm definitely going to check
who
out some
knows?
of those books because my son, he's going to be getting into the realm of sports. And even though I've taught swimming and I've taught, like little things for kids, I was like Odyssey Mind Coach. And so it's like working with the youth. I've been a teacher for several years before transitioning to being a coach and having my own business. So I know what it is like to work with children. And I also remember what it was like being in the sports when I was growing up. And even though I can say I know what it was like for me, it's very different than we live in a different world. Is basically what I'm trying to say now. So it's a different world for kids today. So even though I can maybe give a little bit of insight from what it was in 5th grade, if someone's doing sports, they have a different world. They have different challenges. They have all of these
Absolutely
technologies and things along those lines. So it's like, yes, I can put myself in your shoes to a certain degree, but it would be me also learning, where you're coming from and then working from there.
Yep. And they're crossovers, right? I mean, they work in the business world, the books, while sports are kind of the underlying theme. All of those principles that we've been talking about, those are really the underlying theme. So I think they're applicable, in all levels. They're not like how-to books. I didn't want to write a book like that, hey, do this, do this, do this. They're perspective books. So someone's not going to pick it up. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to parent. But in the sports parent book, there are a lot of things about really trying to help build a confident kid and an amazing human being through the lens of sports. And I think we could all use that. We all want what's in the best interest of our kids. And sometimes we're a little close to the fire. And we really put a lot of our own past on the kids. That's not always helpful, but I do think that they're good resources for how to think, how to process, and ultimately how to level up yourself, your child, or as an athlete or as a business person. That was the goal. That's what I tried to set out to do.
Mm-hmm. And I have been blessed with having so many wonderful coaches, authors, doctors, you name it, come on the podcast, and I'm always learning little nuggets of wisdom from a bit of their insight, a bit of their journey. And it's just so amazing how you can just take something from a podcast episode. And I always call the episode buffets. So you can come to an episode, and when you go to a buffet, you're not going to get all the things you don't like. You're just going to take the things you like. So you're going to listen. You're going to say, okay, I like that, right? Take it, use it, utilize it, like implement it in your life. And if you keep doing that enough, eventually you're going to get to that point where if you haven't reached out to a coach yet, you're going to, and then B, you're going to start to see some changes in your life. It's not going to be immediate. It's not like, all right, I am turning my light on, the lights are on, right? Maybe that can be in your mind where you're waking up like, okay, I'm awake, versus, okay, let me hit the snooze button. And most people right now, they're just kind of coasting through, hitting the snooze button. They're on cruise control. And I'm asking you to challenge yourself today to get out of that cruise control, to get out of that aspect of snoozing for an extra 5 minutes and start to be more direct in your story. And so as we begin to wrap up, Sandy, I would love to get some final words, some final thoughts, and then please tell everyone where they can find you, reach out to you.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Honestly, super insightful. And they can find me at sandycohan.com. Cohan is the last name. And whether it's speaking or the books, which are available all over the place, my big thing is lead a life where there are no regrets. And it doesn't mean you have to go, run across the country or have this crazy, crazy goal. But don't limit yourself to what you think isn't possible, not in your relationships, not in your business, not in whatever you're doing, because there is a way. And when you dial it in, when you focus, when you are purposeful, you can achieve just about whatever you want to with good perspective. And what I always like to tell people is that age-old thing where people see the glass is either half full or half empty. I add a third viewpoint in there and say, what if the glass is refillable? What if you just go to the sink and just fill it back up and now you got a full glass? And when I think you think about it like that, we're all pretty much empowered to go out and chase what we want. And that's the goal. We're just trying to be 1% better today than we were yesterday.
Right. And if we can be consistent in that 1%, eventually we're going to reach 100% and then it's going to compound. And the goal for ourselves is not so much to fix everything that's wrong with us in one day or what we think is wrong or what maybe our coach is asking us to work on or work with. It's to say, okay, I can work on this today. I'm being deliberate that I'm working on this today.
Progress,
exactly. And I just think about, we have to do the work before the work, as we said early on, and we have to be able to focus and lock in. So today and right now is an opportunity for you to focus, for you to lock in. I encourage you to reach out to Sandy, learn more about what he's doing, what he has written, what he's going to keep on doing in his life, because he still has many more years to not only furthering himself, but helping everyone he's working with. So thank you, Sandy, for coming on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.